everyone, welcome to a brand new season of S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
Manos, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad. Lots of cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
Including TV stuff, I guess.
Including TV stuff. If you've never watched anything with Manos in it outside of S.H.I.E.L.D. Discussions, this is what Manos looks like. And we are on screen now for hopefully all of our discussion shows, going with a somewhat new format, although we're keeping most of the categories and things at the end of the show, so it'll be pretty much the same show, but we're on camera now. And Manos, thanks for joining me again this season. Really excited for another season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., especially after this premiere. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. We'll do our general overview, and Manos, the first thing I want to mention is I kind of feel like this season, if it's going to retain the kind of tone that it's starting with, which I think is certainly a launch off from what we had at the end of last season, that I think it's going to win over some naysayers. I think it's got a really good chance at bringing in some folks that went, yeah, that first season was slow and I didn't care for it and it was too goofy, but I think they could start right now and go, wait, this is this show?
I think this show begins now for a lot of people, and I think, yeah, a lot of people who may have been scared off by the bad reviews for the first half of last season, or themselves bored by the first half of the last season, I think those people come back, especially what I'm hoping is that the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy has really nothing to do with what's going on Earth.
Yeah.
And the next film is, what, a year away, summer away?
That's a really good point, yeah. So we need stuff like this to keep this continuity going for people, yeah. I mean, we don't need it, but it's nice that we have it, yeah.
So I think right now the producers of the show are in a comfortable spot where they're allowed to develop their show the way they want without feeling awkward, which I had that feeling that the first half of the first season was really awkward and slowly paced because they were trying to figure out how to pace themselves for the movie, and they knew what was coming up, so they were kind of just trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, it made for a lot of kind of stilted episodes.
Well, when you say the movie, you really mean two, right? Because Thor the Dark World was a thing, and then Winter Soldier was a thing, and you're right, they had to tiptoe around things, and because they weren't allowed to use characters and do things that they probably wanted to do, there were a lot of places where it just felt not Marvel Universe at all, and I think that they very consciously, right out the gate here, with this season, are going, okay, folks that weren't sure about this show or didn't watch the last half of last season, we're straight up in Marvel Cinematic U, and I feel like the production values look way up. I don't know if it got if they got a lot more budget or if they spent a great deal of their season budget on this first episode, but let's go ahead and talk about that teaser because it looks like what the Agent Carter show is probably going to be. I feel like what that teaser was partly doing, and it figures wonderfully into the plot. I mean, they did a great job of making it necessary, but also I think that a lot of that was kind of giving fans that already know they're doing the Agent Carter show kind of a sense of what that show's going to feel like. And boy, if that's that show, if that's the production values and stuff, it looked as good as, I'm going to go as far as to say it looked as good as Captain America: First Avenger. I mean, like, it was those production values, and also kind of nice that it was those characters and those actors. But I'm like, wow. So that's going to basically be kind of the Howling Commando show, right? Or at least that's the sense I'm getting from it.
Yeah, with Agent Carter leading them after Captain America had disappeared, and that's a great way to work it. And I got to tell you, I think I heard that she was going to appear in the season premiere pilot, I really didn't keep my head too close to the news.
I didn't either. I didn't know that, so I got to be surprised, which was exciting.
And it was pretty awesome actually because as soon as she and the Howling Commandos burst through, I thought, okay, here's how you start the season. Here we go. And almost in a way, like, answering critics like, okay, boring? Well, boom.
Well, and also I don't think it's too in your face about hey, it's Marvel. I think it's just, well, we made so much of the last half of last season about the Hydra thing. This has lately felt almost more like a Captain America spin-off show than anything really. That we're playing around a lot with those ideas and those characters or at least making up some characters that could be inside of the organizations and things from all of that. To open this with that, I felt like it was entirely appropriate, and then to do. And if you've not watched the show before, of course, we're gonna spoil everything. So make sure you've watched the show. But like when you get to the end of that, they get the box 084. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised by that, but I was like, well, it's nice that this is gonna matter, and that since they're gonna, I think it was a good place to start, because since they're gonna do the Agent Carter show in between seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., almost giving us just an entire year of Marvel on TV every year, if that goes well. Wow, that's really cool. It's kind of immediately giving us a place to spin that off, but also it's integrating it and making that necessary, making her character necessary to this show. That's exciting. I thought that was super cool.
I agree, and wow, I hadn't even heard that part, that this is going to be sort of a summer series, so we get Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. during the regular season. During the off season, we get Agent Carter.
Yeah, and I guess I hadn't talked to you about that because I had planned, if you're up for it, for us doing that in the interim. On our discussion show. We can talk about that. I forgot we hadn't had that conversation. Let's go ahead and
That's
get
okay.
it.
I totally want to watch that show anyway. That was in my plans.
Don't you feel like? Let's get into the episode proper. Don't you feel like? In hindsight, it's too bad that somehow or rather, and I'm not saying this was possible, I'm just saying that in hindsight, isn't it kind of unfortunate that we couldn't somehow have started with something similar to the status quo in the first place? Because for two big reasons. The first one is this, where we're at right now, the status quo right now, immediately lends itself to more long-form storytelling, to not having a random episodic, let's go someplace and do a random thing. I'm sure with 20-something episode seasons, we will have episodes that are kind of standalone, but, I mean, we ended this episode on a cliffhanger, so they clearly want to continue the kind of long-form storytelling that they had, kind of serialized stuff they had in last season. But also, doesn't this work much better for television? Don't you feel a lot less like, oh, we're trying to do a show that would work better with a movie budget? Because that was a big complaint that a lot of people had at the beginning of last season, and now it's we don't have. Like Coulson doesn't have the resources he wishes he did. I'm not saying that the show is minimalistic by any stretch of the imagination, because there's some impressive effects here, especially with the Absorbing Man. Good God, he looks good. But
we will get to that.
They're not going beyond their means anymore. It looks like a show they can make weekly now.
Agreed, and I think that's the situation in the storyline, kind of working with the TV budget and TV constraints that they have. I think, I don't know if that was one of those things that was just planned, or hey, this is kind of helping each other out.
As much as I loved stuff from, here's the thing, I loved the last half of last season. I thought Garrett was fascinating. I mean, all the stuff we talked about. I thought it was wonderful. But I thought a lot of it was working really hard to fix the problems with that show. And in a lot of ways, as much as I loved so much of those stories, I think now would have been the time to start the show. I feel like doing the S.H.I.E.L.D. show off of the dismantling of S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been the place to start, and I don't think you would have seen the kind of complaints that we had last year. This is where we should have started. Now, I don't know how you resurrect Coulson and all of that. Obviously, again, looking in hindsight, what we ought to have done was not kill off Coulson and make him the only person left over who can remake S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, now that you say that, maybe that could have been a reason to bring back Coulson. That maybe.
Oh yeah, sure.
Fury had this agreement with these people set up, and with rebuilding S.H.I.E.L.D., this is something that kind of was one of his in-game plans.
Yeah. If this ever happens, we activate the Coulson clone or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what? You're right. Shield could have started now. But hey, it's history. So
yeah,
the first season is what it is.
What are you gonna do? And I don't want to make this whole show today just like retrospective. Here's what they should have done. But I guess mostly my point is for anybody that happens to be watching this that didn't watch the episode, I'm going to really suggest that folks give it another chance, because I think that the episode does a pretty good job of catching everybody up to speed. I don't feel like there are questions from last year that have not been answered yet and stuff, but I do feel like you could probably start now without dealing with anything from last season. Still, I'd say watch from the Captain America Hydra reveal on, because I liked that stuff. But if you didn't, I still think that you're likely to like some of this stuff. Let's talk about the overall tone real quick. It's darker. It's darker looking. I mean, lighting. You know what I mean? Like it feels more like, I think, the spy thriller that people wanted it to be in the first place.
Agreed.
And that's easier to do just with now the basic premise that they have.
Yeah, it went from this to this. Essentially.
Although I don't think it's an improvement for you, really.
Yeah, no. This would be bad.
Yeah.
But, yeah, discussion shows you should have better lighting.
But unless we want to do a really gritty discussion show where we're both like undercover. If we're going to do an undercover discussion show, then perhaps.
But where were we talking?
But I'm just saying that I do feel like this has the tone that people were kind of looking for in the first place, and that
the tone does have a more claustrophobic, intense feel to it. I agree to that. Without the huge resources,
and it's helping the pacing.
Without the huge resources that they had in the first season, everything's just a little bit more intense. They can't just call back up and, hey, just pick us up. They kind of have to deal, with what... Yeah. This episode shows us what happens when stuff goes wrong.
One of the things that the episode is doing right out the gate that I'm really appreciating is that it's providing good reasons for S.H.I.E.L.D. to still exist, which I think is maybe the hardest pill to swallow. When you have a huge covert government agency, although they weren't that covert, their logo was everywhere. But when you have this huge government agency,
let me get my S.H.I.E.L.D. cup here and drink out of it.
When you have this, now that we're on camera, I've been meaning to get glasses for every show.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Now that Constantine's going to be tough. I don't know if there's a glass for that. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. before was this giant organization, and then everybody found out that they were infiltrated by Hydra, and now especially with Talbot, who is really almost over the top with his no matter how much Coulson proves himself to me, I have to shut his side of all this down, or shut him down, and there can't be S.H.I.E.L.D. I can sort of see why he's having to do that, but I do think he's going a little bit too far. Coulson does a pretty good job of proving why he needs to be here, I think. And so the point I'm making is, I think that when that happens, and when nobody can trust that agency, and they're so compromised, you've got to work really hard writing a show like this to prove to the audience that Coulson needs to resurrect S.H.I.E.L.D., that there's any reason for it to still be around. And I think this episode is a really good argument for it, because they've got intel nobody else has. More than that, though, they have experience nobody else has. Coulson and his team, at least the ones that, the original ones from last season, because we've got new folks now, which I'm also really liking, by the way, that we're beefing up the team and we've got new characters. Although it looks like we're maybe killing some of them off really quick. I guess we'll find out. But with Coulson and his old team, they've dealt with superpowered people. They've dealt with this whole 084 thing, and so I feel like what the episode is trying to do, for the most part, is say, the government's not equipped to deal with people like Absorbing Man. We need Coulson. So when you get to the end, and Coulson's whole thing is, we need an invisible jet, because we're going to be Wonder Woman. We need an invisible jet so that nobody knows where we are, but we can still operate. It would have been really easy for that to just be the new formula for the show. Every episode, they go rescue some random person or go stop some horrible thing, and nobody sees them. But instead, what it is it's we're necessary. You need us, and I think that's helping it to not immediately create a formula so much as a new premise, which I'm digging.
Yeah, it's almost an A-team kind of setup where there are these group of experienced soldiers helping people, but they're also on the run from the government at the same time.
We need a voiceover at the beginning of the show now. Now that you say that, we need like Samuel L. Jackson needs to come in. And we need Nick Fury like a group of commandos run by Nick Fury or run by Agent Coulson flying around an invisible airplane running for the government for a crime for a crime that they didn't commit but Hydra committed.
Yeah, and Talbot is really well done and well portrayed here. Because I don't know what your experience is with Talbot, but this is kind of him.
Yeah,
he's kind of a classic Stanley. I don't know if anybody else really he's kind of a classic Stanley mid-60s kind of authoritarian like Jamerson who pretends he has all the answers and is always wrong and still has all this power. And even when he's helped by the good guys, he still doesn't help them.
Yeah, and it's kind of a commentary on idiot government people with too much power.
Yeah. Stan, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, maybe Joe Simon, they were all kind of creating those. Those are pretty classic characterizations of what they were doing back in the 60s. Is the authorities may not know what they're doing.
Going along.
And Talbot is a perfect example of that, and he's really, really well done here. I think because this is the second time we've seen Talbot. The first time was in the now uncannoned Hulk movie from Ang Lee, and he just seems more like that character in this version.
Well, and I'm glad that we've got him on screen and we're doing stuff with him because he was introduced at the end of last season, and I didn't know if they were really going to do things with him. So that's really cool.
Me too. And also the fact that he is in charge, he has some power, kind of shows that we do need S.H.I.E.L.D. to do these things. Because good Lord, they save him and he still is completely oblivious.
And I was really on the fence about it because I had a hard time buying it. I was like, really, is this guy this stubborn and this ignorant?
Yes.
But then
yes.
and then I guess that becomes one of the, and I'm always talking about this because I think it's interesting, one of those really interesting like source material things but that's his prevailing character trait, so he needs to be that way. But then I'm going, I don't want that guy to really be like that, but then he's supposed to be like that from the comics, so I guess that's infusing this with some silly comic book stuff while still being able to take it seriously. So I guess I'll ease off on it. I guess that's kind of fun. One of my favorite lines in the episode, Manos, this won't be my favorite line, but one of my favorite lines in this episode was, "The American government is one of the lesser evils." That kind of solidifies all of what we were just talking about. I really dig that. Okay,
we should put that on our money. Actually.
That's awesome. Okay, so getting away from politics and things, how do you feel about where our original main characters are before we start talking about new folks? How do you feel about Fitz? How do you feel about Ward? Do you think the Ward thing, I'm hearing this from folks, do you think the Ward thing is going to get really tedious really fast? The whole kind of Hannibal Lecter giving them bits of information here and there, and insisting on talking with Skye, and maybe they're going to do kind of a redemption thing with him, and I don't know that I really want to see that. I don't know. How do you feel about it?
Well, it depends how they play that. If they overplay that hand, it could get really, really, really quite old. Because you know what? Hey Ward, you're not that important. We can just gas you and find this information out our own. So I'm glad to see that she isn't buying it. Skye isn't buying what he's selling, at least so far. I would be very disappointed if she did. He does at least have some information about her father, so we'll see where that goes. We'll see how he plays that. But yeah, Mr. Crazy Beard Face, I'm not really too sympathetic for right now.
I thought Ward was
the Fitz and Simmons stuff. Or do you want to talk about Ward
Yeah,
first?
let me mention this real fast. I don't know. I thought that Ward with Garrett was incredibly interesting. Now that Garrett's gone, now that we know everything about Ward and where he got to, I don't know that I care anymore. I kind of... And I'm not surprised that they're keeping him around, but I don't know that I... Like, I kind of wish he was... And I don't mean this going all the way because I don't really want a whole redemption thing for him. I don't think there's any redeeming shooting hand and things like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure that I could ever see this guy actually working with the team again. I don't know if I ever want to see that. He was more interesting as a manipulator because when we thought we knew who he was in the beginning of last season, he was really two-dimensional and kind of an archetype, and it was the fact that he was evil that made him interesting. So, I don't know if I want to see them ever go there, but what I was going to say is I almost wish it was sort of like Faith in Buffy and Angel, where he pops in every now and again and wreaks havoc and then leaves. I don't know that I want to see him as a regular anymore. He's still listed as main cast. I'm assuming we're gonna. I don't know how you get this guy in every episode, and I don't know.
There were times when, like in the Buffy series, like when Angel or Faith would come back, I'd go, "Oh man, come on." They're done. Forget them. And then they find a way to redeem themselves in an interesting way. So I don't. Yeah. I'm willing to sit back and see what they do.
See what happens. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm willing to keep an open mind about it. But my first reaction was, this could get tedious. It wasn't right away. I mean, I thought the scene was wonderful. I thought the way it was played was quite good. So whatever. Yeah. I also think that cell is really cool looking. But anyway, okay, so then the Fitz thing, boy, I didn't call it, and I should have, and I'm an idiot. And when I like that he was hallucinating Simmons, and when I got, and so freaking sad, so sad. I mean, the first thing I thought when we saw him was, and I said this last year in a place too, I guess I've been really waiting for one of these characters to die since episode 3. I kept thinking, I don't know if it was me, I think maybe I would have just gone ahead and killed him, and then it would have been interesting to see Simmons have to deal with that and go on her own and not have that like second part of the duo, because it was like the Fitz-Simmons thing and you need both of them to complete the character. Now that I know that he was hallucinating her, and that I'm seeing how incredibly sad the dementia is and all of that, and I think the whole Fitz-Simmons thing continues to be really kind of fascinating because he's hallucinating her and still sees them as together and a pair, and she's a huge part of his personality. I'm liking it. I don't know. It's another one of those things where I don't know where it goes exactly, but at least the way it played here, it was incredibly tragic, and I liked it a lot.
I really liked that scene once we got to the reveal because I remember thinking, like, geez, this guy's a time bomb, frankly, especially now that he's got brain damage, which is another classic Marvel villain trope. They get brain damage, they become the Dr. Octopus.
Do you think he's going to go evil?
I've been thinking that since... God, for a while.
Because you're right, and I forgot that we had this conversation. Last year, we had talked about how he looked like he might blow up at some point. And now he's got, as you said, brain damage, and he's got dementia. Oh, man, this could be fascinating. Because he's already starting to... But in this episode, he's already starting to resent the crew.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I didn't even think of that. Boy, it's better than I even thought it was now. I mean, we'll see where it goes, but yeah, that is potentially fascinating.
Yeah, and I just can't believe they Tyler Durden'd us, because I didn't see that coming. I just thought she was there.
Yep. I'm an idiot.
And then when she disappeared and you realize she was talking to no one... I was really, really, heart-struck with that. I thought that was some very good writing and directing.
And you know what's cool? Did you watch it a second time?
I didn't get a chance to watch it a second time.
I went ahead and watched it a second time. Manos, that first scene where we see him and May or whoever it is, I forget who it is, somebody is in the room with the two of them briefing Fitz on something, talking to him, and she'll say a thing and then he'll repeat it. And that scene is so interesting if you know. It's just like Fight Club. You were talking about Tyler. When I watched Fight Club the first time and didn't know all that, there's a lot of things that don't play, and I'm like, what am I looking at? When I watched it the second time, oh my god, this is so interesting. And they got that in that scene. Really, really good stuff. I thought that writing was incredibly strong. And
I give my compliments to the writers and creators of the show. You did a trick I've seen David Fincher do years ago, and you still tricked me. Very good.
Sometimes I love it when a show makes me feel like a moron. There are times where that is a wonderful feeling. Wow, good job, you got me. And it's not a plot twist; it's there the whole time. You know, good stuff.
It's there in front of us. I love being wrong.
Yes, exactly.
And this episode did catch me being wrong.
Lucy Lawless. I love Lucy Lawless. I get excited anytime she's in anything. I loved her in Battlestar. Of course, growing up, I was a huge Xena fan. When I found out she was in this, I got really excited. And they immediately gave her a really sad, tragic, really fascinating thing she's going to have to deal with. And they made it look like maybe she's dead, but you don't cut a character's arm off like that and then kill them. She's coming back. She's going to have a robotic arm, and she's probably going to be another Deathlock. And but I don't think it's going to be the Deathlock thing again. You know what I mean? It'll just be she's got a robot thing. But they're starting off pretty heavy. Being in Shield now is scarier than it's ever been. I mean, you're making these giant. This episode is a lot about sacrifices. You're making these huge sacrifices just to be there, and I thought that that was a really cool place to start her off, especially because I didn't get a sense of her until then. I was like, she seems like just kind of generic Shield person. I think she kind of was. I mean, you know what I mean? I think we're gonna see this character blossom and become something. But I hope she's a regular. I hope she's in every episode because I thought she was great.
Agreed. Lucy Lawless doesn't usually stick around too long in a show because she's got to be Lucy Lawless somewhere else. And if she dies and never comes back, I will be kind of annoyed really badly because you could have gotten any actress to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't forgive them for that, but I don't think that they play up the fact they got Lucy Lawless as hard as they did if it's only for the one episode.
Man, if they did, that would have been that's an X. That's an X.
What is this, Family Feud?
Yeah. Oh man, of course. That's an X. If they kill her off and she's not coming back, that's an X.
What happens if they get 3? Do we stop making the show, or do we just go on to the other family?
Let's see. If 3 X's, we go start watching Gotham.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm already doing that someplace else. We'll just bring you on to Gotham, and then you'll be like, "Oh, there's 3 X's here, and I can go back to Shield."
Shield for the win.
Survey says. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Koenig is probably a life model decoy. That's not surprising, but I love the way the scene played with Triplet. I thought Triplet going, he's got a lot of brothers, and that's creeping me out, was really funny.
I adore Triplet.
I can't get enough of Triplet. I'm glad he's still around, and if they kill him off, I will also be heartbroken.
Well, basically he fills the role that Ward had, but that actor is just really a lot more charismatic, and he's just more interesting. And of course, Patton Oswalt. God, as soon as he came back, I was like, oh crap, this is like model decoy. Okay. Or there are a whole bunch of them, or that was a life model decoy, and this is the real guy. I don't know. We'll find out. But if there's a whole bunch, it might be. You might have like an army of those guys hanging around, which would be which would be a little like Ghost in the Shell. They have a android life model decoy that kind of does all the office work and extra spy stuff, where normally you would have humans do it. But,
well, he's like Layun in Deep Space Nine, except that he's not creepy and evil. But so we're setting up a major resurrection motif, right? And of course, last season we had lots of that, of course, because of Coulson and stuff. But I feel like we're really launching that on into possibly the theme of the season now. We've got, you still have Coulson, and he's not dealing anymore with the mystery of how he came back, but he's still going to, I'm sure, deal some with reinventing himself and deciding who he wants to be now that he knows what he is. So you got Coulson, you've got Koenig, you've got the Hydra guy from the teaser who they bookend the show with, and you find out he's still alive. Apparently, if you are a Nazi Hydra, you live forever. It doesn't matter. Like we are constantly bringing these guys back. So yeah, giant resurrection motif. Going to be interesting to see how that plays. I don't have any analysis on it yet because we're one episode in, but that's definitely obviously some setup.
It definitely makes sense, and also we can flesh out the Coulson being alive clone thing mystery deal, and that's a good way of dealing with it because we get to learn about this guy. Like, is he a part of an army clone thing, or maybe he's connected? He could even be connected to the thing that brought Coulson back, or he's just been alive all this time. Maybe
I'm sure that whatever.
Maybe he's been putting his brain in new clones or something like that.
Well, obviously...
I know Red Skull did that at one point.
Obviously, metaphorically, the whole Hydra cut off one head, two more come back. They're making that incredibly literal now by having an actual Hydra agent come back to life or be around the whole time. So it'll be interesting to see how that... I'm sure the 084 has something to do with it, the thing in the box. But the properties of that are really weird. Also, we should talk about the fact that this is yet another artifact plot. That is another go after an artifact thing. And the MacGuffin things have been kind of starting to annoy people with Marvel things, with movies especially, because it seems like we've got one in every movie. And
yeah, but Marvel has a lot of MacGuffins scattered around that universe, so. I don't know. I'm personally kind of used to it.
But I liked that our guys. I mean, they didn't get to keep it, but our guys did grab the MacGuffin immediately, and also it's somewhat of a MacGuffin in that it's a thing we got to go after and get, but it's also part of the lore of this thing because we've been talking about 084, what is that, this whole time, and now we're going to get the genesis of it through this. So they're at least doing things with it. That's nice. Before we get on to categories, the other big thing I want to talk about is how it seems to me like Coulson has a really good chance at becoming something close to Nick Fury and not being able to deal with it. Because at the end of this episode, he has to make a call, which is, do we abort or do we keep going with the mission regardless of what happened to Lucy Lawless's character? And because he tells them to continue with the mission, somebody has probably died at the end, and everybody else looks like they are either dead or got really close to being dead. And he's got that big speech about how we have to take risks, and so he's gone from this is a little sad for him and kind of scary. He's gone from that place he was in first season where there is always a way we don't have to compromise our principles to the only way we can keep S.H.I.E.L.D. going is by making compromises. He's becoming more like Fury, and that's going to be an interesting thing to take him because, after all, his worldview didn't exactly work, did it? We lost S.H.I.E.L.D. And now he's the director. What does he do? What does Coulson, as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., having gone through all of that, end up doing?
And also, S.H.I.E.L.D. is in a place where it's never been. It has its back up against the wall. Where you can't really afford as much idealistic feeling as you once did because, well, when you're on a mission, stuff goes wrong. Well, you got to get home on your own. So he's going to have to make a lot of tough... I agree. I think he's going to have to, unfortunately, put himself in a lot of tough situations where he's got to make some calls.
They did a good job of making the stakes high enough there. When he says at the end, if we hadn't made it through this mission, there would probably be no us. And so what he did was necessary. It doesn't. I mean, you have to leave it up to everybody's own morality to decide if he was right to do that. But to keep S.H.I.E.L.D. going, he seems to have done the thing he had to do. How morally compromised is he going to get? I think that's going to be really the crux of his character arc throughout the season.
I like it. Do you want to talk about the Absorbing Man yet?
Yo, we haven't even talked about Absorbing Man. Well, he looked super awesome, and also I really appreciated two big things. First of all, we didn't have to give his origin in this episode. We can wait on that, and we don't have to do the formulaic thing of let's do a flashback and give his origin. Secondly, he's not dead at the end. He's still around. That's great. So yes, I was very excited about that, and just yay, a Marvel villain I've heard of. You know.
Yeah, I know. I didn't realize he was in the show either, and boy, when he popped up, I got excited. I actually really like the Absorbing Man, and he's a good, dependable villain.
He's got a good power.
A bunch of these guys. You need a villain to show up, to kick some butt and maybe get beaten or beat some kind of challenge and be cool at the same time. And Marvel has a ton of these guys, and Absorbing Man is one of my favorites because it's such a cool power, and he's such an interesting guy.
I'm expecting a giant showdown at some point between him and Deathlock. They've got to do that. That would be really cool.
Boy, when he's fighting Maine, he pulls that ball and chain out. It's like, oh,
this is good stuff. And they got a lot of mileage out of his power. I mean, that's a lot of special effects stuff they've got to do. I mean, they could have had him just do a couple of little token things. They went all the way with it. I mean, you got to see him do like the tire thing and the crystal thing and and he's kind of smart. He's a no nonsense, not a big talker, not a real charismatic villain. But Absorbing Man's not like that in the comics either, from what I've read. He's got that scene where he is in the where he's in that cell and he is able to turn himself invisible. He's kind of smart. We are doing that villain motif of villains always want to get captured. We've done that in everything since Dark Knight. But
I know. I wonder how long this is going to keep going. But it didn't take too much of the episode.
Yeah.
And Creel. He's never been too dumb, actually. He's not exactly the Rhino, but he's not Spider-Man either.
Yeah.
He's kind of somewhere in between, and he knows his powers really well. First time I saw him, actually, was Secret Wars, where he was... One of my favorite moments in Secret Wars is when he was in a stone form, and Wolverine sliced off his arm. And he was pretty freaking out. Because what he did, because he stayed in his stone form for a while until he put the arm up to his arm and then turned back to flesh and was scared it wouldn't work, and it worked. The guy knows his stuff, even though, okay, granted, he's not a genius, he's a thug, but he's a really good thug.
He's a really good thug. He's a good, dependable thug. Well, Manos, we've got kind of a longer show running here, so let's go ahead and go on real quick to best moment, worst moment. What was your favorite moment of the episode, Manos?
Oh, boy. I guess the Fight Club moment with Fitz.
Yeah. That was mine as well. But secondly, the teaser, though, just because that was super cool.
There was lots of really good moments here. The teaser with Carter, the moment where Absorbing Man cuts them off with the SUV was a really cool moment. That looked movie good.
Yeah.
As far as today.
I thought so too. Did you have a worse moment?
Well, that depends. If Lucy Lawless does not come back next week and is gone forever, her dying and becoming Lucy Armless would be my choice for worst moment.
Otherwise, she will come back and be armless but not harmless.
It's I guess, I don't know, Ward's crazy beard face, maybe, but...
Yeah, that's that scene, if I have a worst moment, it's that only because I'm not sure I'm buying that I want that to keep going, but it could be good, I don't know, so I don't know. I'd almost have to come back after seeing other episodes and pick one.
Well, we'll see, I don't know.
Yeah.
The fact that he could be so under people's skin just kind of, I don't buy. It's do we really like this guy that much?
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, I feel like we've kind of been there and done that with him, and I don't really need more of that.
Yeah.
Let's go to guest stars. We got Adrian Pasdar back as Talbot, and I'm assuming to see more of him. I think he's going to pop in and out.
Oh, he's great. If they do that Hulk movie they keep talking about maybe doing, I hope he's in that.
Yeah, me too. And I'd be surprised if he wasn't, considering all the crossover with S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that we've had in the Captain America and other movies. Lucy Lawless, of course, we talked about. She's playing a character named Hartley. Patton Oswalt is still around, and probably will be till the end of time, even if he plays 17 different versions of this character. Crusher Creel is played by Brian Wade, and we've got Reed Diamond, who I know from 24, playing Daniel Whitehall, the Nazi guy who is either still around or somehow got resurrected. I was excited to see him. He's an actor I like a lot, and somewhat against type. He's usually more of kind of a no-nonsense, very kind of modern guy. It's weird seeing him in that role and being like a German with glasses and stuff. But he's pulling it off so far, so we'll see how that goes. Manos, did you have a favorite line?
I actually like the line you mentioned earlier, that America is the lesser evil or something like that. It's such a good line.
My other favorite was Coulson as Talbot when he's on the phone and he's pretending to be Talbot, when he says, "Next time you see me, come shake my hand," because that was just so weird and awkward. And then you've got Koenig in the background going, "What? What was that?" I love that. And then when he's like, "Go bigger," and he's like, "No, reel it back." I love that. Coulson, what I love is that we've still got these nice moments of levity, even though this is becoming a much more tragic show. This is becoming much more of what you would figure a Whedon and S.H.I.E.L.D. show would look like. And yet, Coulson is still really goofy sometimes, and I love that.
And I hope we get more scenes like that between him and Patton Oswalt. Because these guys can play off each other very well. I mean, you can even throw the script in the trash can.
And Clark Gregg is very funny, and they sometimes let him be very funny. And I think when S.H.I.E.L.D. is done, somebody needs to give him his own sitcom, because I think he would be wonderful for a comedy show.
Yeah.
Predictions and hopes. I mentioned a couple things. Do you have any big predictions, Manos?
Well, I already made my prediction about Fitz going nuts. And becoming a villain. We'll see where Lucy... Well, what's Lucy Lawless's character name again?
Hartley.
Hartley. We'll see what Hartley does. I can't... I looked up Hartley's name. I don't think that's a Marvel character.
It's not. I don't think it is.
Okay. So we'll see where that character goes. And we'll see deeper, I guess, into the mystery of Coulson's resurrection. I have this feeling Nazi guy is tied to that, but that's just a hunch.
Yeah, well, again, we know really how he came back with Fury and everything. I don't think we know a lot about the actual alien and stuff, so there may be more to find out about that. But just as far as why he came back and all that, we've got the answers to that now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I do. Yeah, the nuts and bolts of it with the alien stuff, that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, sorry. Besides the things I mentioned, the big thing being, is Coulson going to kind of become more like Fury and get more morally compromised? I'm wondering if, this is kind of a different thing, but I'm wondering if Howard Stark ends up being a main player in the Carter show.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Because he got mentioned there, and she was like, we got to be careful about guys like that with this technology, and I was like, I wonder if that's a thing that you're setting up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of that show is supposed to be her setting up S.H.I.E.L.D.
It is, and he was involved in that, so it'd be nice to see that actor back. I thought he was really good. Comic references, really the only big things were probably the LMD thing and also Absorbing Man. Did you pick up on anything else?
That's all I got, really. Okay. Just seeing Absorbing Man was just cool.
All right, so let's go on now to our trivia question for the week. This is the last thing for the show, and Manos is going to give us something outside of the episode, something that's just Marvel or S.H.I.E.L.D. in general. And what do you got for us this time, Manos?
All right, well, Absorbing Man is the villain, the super villain for this episode. I almost said issue. And I got to tell you ladies, I am sorry, but he is taken. Who is the Absorbing Man's girlfriend?
Absorbing Man has a girlfriend. I didn't even know that.
He does.
Okay, all right.
He's had a longtime lover, the love of his life. Who is his soulmate?
My question, as always, from the episode is, what does General Talbot's son want to do when he grows up? That's the question. What does he want to do when he grows up? And if you would like to answer our trivia question, don't put it in the comments from now on. We're changing this up a little bit now for the discussion shows. Send your answer. I mean, you can put them there if you really want to, but you're not going to get mentioned on the show if you do that. What I'd like you to do is send it to me directly through the contact page on geekvolution.com or as a personal message on the Geekvolution main page on YouTube. So go to geekvolution.com, click the contact thing, and if the first person that I see who gets each of these correct will be mentioned in next week's episode. Manos, thanks for joining me as always. Really excited for another season of the show. I thought this was a delightful beginning, and I'm really excited about it. And we'll be with you every week when there's a new S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, so look forward to Fridays on Geekvolution. I am Captain Logan.
And I am the real Manos.
And we'll see you next time.